Welcome back, everyone. Super excited because again this week we have a brand spanking new guest, Chris from Conspire A Theory podcast. You guys really need to check out the Patreon page because it's a free membership for the first week. And you got to see this guy's headphones because they are bomb. They got like cat ears and they light up and they're super freaking awesome. So, right here is a cat ball sensor that is on. Hopefully, the batteries haven't died. They like to drain the batteries while I'm not in the studio. Down here by Mr. Penguin is another one. And over here by my Bigfoot head is another one. Before I got on with you, if they want to communicate, they can hit one of the sensors and light up. That being said,
Gotcha.
I want to take this little chance here to let you tell the listeners who you are, what you do, why you do it. Really, anything that you want to convey to them, now is a good time to do that.
Sure. I host a show called Conspire Theory. It's where I talk about like entertainment and fun stuff and paranormal, basically spooky shit for the regular people. I talk to a lot of authors and creators and stuff of that stuff. I'm a fan of comic books and movies and all that. So if someone's in that creative field, I'll often have them on my show. Recently, at the time of recording, I think it was Asher's from On Wednesdays We Talk Where she had released an episode that I had done with her about my experiences. So if you want to catch that, and as I had heard on your show, Azures was one of your guests.
Yep, she was. I was snooping around and stalking you too, just to see who's been on your show. And you have a lot of the same guests that I've worked with recently that are just phenomenal. I saw that you had Stacy and Lav on, you had Ashley on, you had Kevin. Kevin is a big deal on my show, but I saw them, and then you had Leslie and Stephen Shaw on. They were phenomenal. I had them as well. They're great. But yes, definitely, guys, go check them out.
I remember listening to your show with her. You guys had talked about how you like how you talk about crazy stuff and how you had like a furry on. I guess I'm here to reveal that I am Asher's furry. No, I did not say I'm Asher's fury. I said I am Asher's furry. As in the furry in that episode, that
Ew.
was me.
Oh my gosh, that is
I
so awesome.
And if you listen to the follow-up on my episode with Asher's, I pick up stuff that I left behind in the furry episode. So we pretty much start with Yef right out the gate. So we get crazy. But anyways, aside from discussing her show, which is fantastic, and yours as well, I would see you frequently on other people's shows, like the circle that we were discussing of this
Hmm.
new circle of close-knit friends who have started like their own it's just a nice circuit of podcast hosts that tend to swap guests and of that nature. So I figured it would probably be about time that I reached out and talked to you, and I was able to get a hold of you, and it was great. And now here we are.
So I was reading through some of the stuff here and I was listening, like I said, to your show a little bit off and on. Work gets crazy now because now I actually deal with people. So I can't just lock myself in a hole and listen to podcasts all day, which is rather unfortunate. Got to be a people person. And one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about was you had mentioned that you had experience with a light man.
That was when it was initially not my firsthand experience, but I was there. My mother, when she had this was when I was like 4 years old, and I was sleeping in the same room with my brother. And when we were off in our room of sleep, my mother had gotten up in the middle of the night to go and do something, either get a glass of water or something, whatever. And when she had gone through the hallway, she had seen a man of light, a being of light. She couldn't discern if it was a man or a woman. It was just a figure of light. And it went from it was like light all the way on down to about the knees. And then from the knees on down, it dissipated. And she saw this figure of light peering into our bedroom. And of course, you jump, like jump scare stuff from seeing something like that all of a
Hmm.
sudden. When she jumped, it had blinked out of existence. So
And
at the time, my mother had figured though it was probably our guardian angel, which was her answer for everything. And now when we're talking about later, as I learned later through time and time travel and ghosts and what some people seem to think ghosts are. I know that our mutual friend Asher's has her own
mhm.
theories about it. And I'm thinking going along those lines is when my mother had passed, had she gone through a life review and actually was that her? was that her peering in on us, and then she caught herself peering in on us as she probably went through the life review or whatever it is that when she transcended this dimension and went on to someplace else. That's what I like to think of that, something like that. So that's one of my theories.
That is a very interesting take on it. I would have not thought of that. What it reminded me of was, I believe, one of my guests that I had on, I think maybe Travis from Bar Banter, I think somebody was talking about they had a woman, like a light similar, but theirs was very distinctively a female. It wasn't a man. So I'm curious, did she ever mention if it did look more masculine in shape, or was it just a light being? Not
I think it
necessarily.
was just a I think it was just a figure. I don't think it was I don't think she got a good enough look of it at it to determine whether or not if it had any
Mm,
gender specific features that she could identify. She just said it was a being of light, so she called it a man of light. So that's what I'm probably guessing. It was something along those lines.
okay. Yeah, because that's just really cool if that's the case. Although it does lead me to some questions, like if she was reviewing and going through it that way, she would have been aware that she would have been coming around the corner, right? So maybe I feel like maybe she had the opportunity to avoid being seen, the future
Well,
one,
I mean,
future mom.
you you would think so, but then I have to ask, what did you eat this morning? Do you know?
I usually don't eat
Okay,
breakfast. I didn't eat breakfast. I can tell you exactly what I had for lunch. It was a sandwich, but I'm not going over all that, but it's Subway.
but the overall point that I was getting at that normal people would say is, "No, I don't remember what I ate this morning," and then that would be into the you can't remember every single second of your life, so I guess it was a moment that she caught herself, if that was a prevailing theory, or it could have just
True.
been an alien or something, or a ghost or something.
If she doesn't refer to it as a man, maybe it was, I like the, I'm not sure how I feel about guardian angels. Angel being heavy on the word there. But I think there's people that watch. To me, if you can have shadow people, you can have light beings, right? You can't have one without the other. You just can't, in my opinion. You can't believe that there's a light and then not a dark.
Y
Now, she obviously didn't get any negative vibes, right? Because it was just like, oh, there's a person there, like, oh, shoot, like walk around the corner, oh, hell. Probably checked in on you because that's who wouldn't, right? And then I
mhm.
wonder if she ever, from that point forward, looked trying to see if she could find it, like catch it again to see maybe what it was. I wonder if she ever actively did that. Did she at what point did she bring it up to you that it happened? Like were
I
you like
think
an
I was
adult?
yeah, I was well into my adulthood when she
Okay.
had talked about that with us, and there strange things have happened in our house, but it wasn't a proficient enough that we would write a book about it or anything. It was just like 1 or 2 odd things happened, and
Hmm.
that's it. And another thing that happened that I think you could relate to is the phantom voice phenomena,
And that's, yep, that's
where
right where I was heading into.
I remember you had told a story where you were laying in bed or something, just doing your mom thing, and then you heard a child's voice say, "Mommy." And through me, what I had experienced was during my early teen years, I would hear my mother's voice give me the summoning call, which is just calling like, "Chris,
Yeah.
come and get something." Because my mom, she's Mexican, of course, she's short. And she's got like she would stack beans on the top shelf. And
Yep.
of course, that's what the kids are for, to go and grab that off the top shelf so that way she could get it. And I would hear summoning call as if she was calling me to one of those duties. So I would run up to I would get stop what I was doing, which was probably drawing or doodling or something. I was probably drawing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at the time. And I'd just gruffly go over there to my mom and she'd be watching television or something. And I'd be like, "What do you want, mom?" And she's like, "I didn't call you." And then when I talked to her about it, it's like she would just say, "That's just your guardian angel," again, using that catchholder for
Yeah.
that. I guess that was her way of trying to not freak us out
Yeah.
yeah. So it was a protective measure.
Yeah, it makes sense. A lot of people do that. And also, depending on people's beliefs and where they come from and their heritage and everything, there's so many different varieties as to what it could or couldn't be. And it might be different for her as opposed to, I don't know, my next door neighbor or something, just depending on what her belief system is. But to me, it's crazy that it used your mom's voice to get your attention. It wasn't just any voice, it was your mother's voice.
Yeah. I love how you refer to it as it. That just makes the hair on the back of my head stand
Sorry.
up.
I
The
have one that does it. So, and I'm not sure. A lot of times if there's a anything around me, I can generally pick up what it looks like. Was it male, female? How tall is it? How old is it? I can get those vibes from things that are around. But I have this one that's been around for a long time and there is no discernible anything. I tell everybody, I'm like, the only thing I can think of is it's got to be a demon. It's got to be because there's nothing about this thing that puts off any essence of humanity ever. But when there's
Hmm.
people that pass and they're around, I can tell that they're at least the same, species or whatever. There's still that humanity there in them, and you can pick up on it.
Yeah.
So,
Whereas in my case, it was clearly a distinctive person that was either mimicking or whatever energy went on her frequency. So there was one instance where I was in my room again drawing. I hear the summoning call. I go look for my mother. She's not in the living room, and then she's not anywhere in the house. And then I see
oh
that
no.
she's in the garden. She's in the backyard doing gardening stuff. And then I open the sliding glass door, which this is the 80s, so it's all rusted and creaky, and it
Mhm.
opens up, makes this huge noise, and I'm like, again, mom and I have this "who's on first" conversation again.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, that's the end of it, and then I just close the door, and then I go back to my business. Years later, looking back at that, if she had called me from outside of the backyard, I would have heard the glass door sliding open,
Mhm.
and that there's no way around that. It's just it and thinking back on that, it really does it I find it a bit on the unsettling side, like, what happened type of thing, like, what are we dealing with here? And
Yeah.
that made me genuinely curious, and at this point, I don't know what more to do with it.
Yeah. So one thing that I'm wondering, so I know you said the first one, it was more of a summoning. I do the same thing. I'm guilty. I call my child because he's 6 inches taller than me and he's 12. So he gets everything from the
Mhm.
top shelf. Or you need to take the
Mhm.
trash out. And I'll be like, oh, hey, there's that tone where you're just summoning, right? There's nothing threatening. There's no
Mhm.
emergency. You're not in trouble. Was it the same tone both times that you heard your mom calling?
In general, it was pretty much just that that generalized tone of I could only describe it as the summoning call,
Because what's got me
and
a little nervous, like you said, that summoning type thing, it
yes.
almost feels like not that it's calling to you, but almost like it had some intention to lure you out somewhere. Because you went actively.
Yes.
It's like, oh, if your mother's calling, it might be thinking, if I do this, I know he'll come. He
Mhm.
will respond because I've seen it. It maybe not doing it initially, but watching. Okay, when she does this in this tone, he comes.
Yeah.
So, in that last one, I'm glad kind of that you were able to see your mom because sometimes I wonder if it was calling for you. Say you didn't see your mom in the garden, my guess is you would probably have gone and looked for her. Therefore, essentially, whatever was calling you away from your home out of the safety of your home, because maybe it can't get into your home and it has to lure you outside kind of
Mm.
situation.
If it
Yes.
was quote unquote out there, it would have had to have dealt with my mom. And if you've met a Mexican mom, they're mean as fuck. So any monsters don't
Yeah.
want to
And
fuck with that.
like I said, I don't know anything about the house or the layout or anything, but if you were in your room and you heard a call, if wherever your mother was, if it was trying to try different things to see if it could get you to say, if she's in the backyard, maybe have you come out the front so you don't see your mom and then you go looking for her. See what I'm saying? Like
Mm.
trying to get that. I've heard a lot of occasions where who was it? I was listening to the Kryptonaut podcast and I wish I could remember what episode it was, but there was this family and they had a little boy and he went missing. He wandered into the woods and disappeared. So they go look for him and the mom and daughter are in the car and the husband's out looking and the mom and the kid both heard what they thought was the kid calling out to them, "Mommy, hey, I'm over here," trying to get them to open the door to get out. And the daughter realized she was picking up on something's not right. And she was like, don't open the door. And about the time the mom was like, he's right there. I can go get him. I can find him. I just got to get out of the car and go look. And right about the time she went, this creature just lunged out at them and was trying to like attack the car to get them out. Almost like it knew it couldn't get in the car. So it was trying to call this kid's voice and mimic it to get her to open the door. Cause once the door was open, it was game on.
Yeah, I suppose I could see that.
Or maybe you just have a
Yeah.
relative that sounds like your mom. I sound like my mom. Like on the phone, everybody thinks that we're all the same people. Me and all my sisters.
Yeah. Yeah, I really don't know what to make of it. Even though that's not the forefront of the research that I dive into, it is something that has happened to me that I find quite interesting. And I just at this point don't know what to do with it. I don't know if I've ever gone so far as to like bring it up to like ghost hunters or those that would be more proficient in this field. If I even know which field is would be most relatable to it. I don't know if this is something. Do I bring this to ghost hunters? Do I bring this to those quantum entanglement bros? Do I
Yeah.
who exactly do I get tell me more from?
Hmm. You didn't
That's
happen to
what
live
I
around
don't
water,
know.
did you?
Let's see, I think there's like a little creek that would flood out every now and then that was like in the neighborhood.
I really don't know how to ask this question without just asking the question. So bear with me here. It's nothing personal. I just don't know how else to ask it. So you said your mom was Mexican.
Yeah.
Is she very traditional by chance? Like as far as values and beliefs?
Only through discipline. She
Okay.
takes the chancla and smacks the fuck out of us if we fuck up. But other than that, she raised us, Lutheran. So
Okay.
and my father had more of a Scandinavian, more Northern European outreach,
That's
so
me.
we started it was like a mix mash of those,
Okay.
but she raised us more like, she didn't go too traditional, but she didn't sway away from them that far.
Yeah. Cause what
We
I was
still
thinking is,
had, like, tamales and stuff like this aside from all the other things, and it was yeah,
well,
it's just typical Tex-Mex stuff.
yeah, most of the stuff that I was curious about is a lot of times whenever I do start hearing about, especially female spirits or any type of experiences, and a lot of people that come from that, I guess, background, maybe is you start thinking of what is it, Lechuza or Lala? Is it Lechuza? How do
Yeah,
you pronounce
the
that?
lechuza.
Thank you.
Lechuza.
Because she doesn't, isn't that a woman that lures children into the water?
Yeah, the lechuza is the owl woman. It's the owl
Oh,
witch. What you're thinking of is
La
La
Llorona.
Llorona.
Yeah, yeah. I can't
That's
ever
the
say
one
it, but
that drowns them, but the lechuza is more of an angsty type of female owl-like figure.
because I'm just thinking if it is something that is that, I don't know if it targets, I feel like some spirits and stuff kind of gravitate more towards certain types of people, I guess you could say. They say you can only be visited by a banshee if you're an Irish descendant.
Mm,
Is
something of that nature,
yeah,
yeah.
maybe because it would be a woman calling you. That's why I was asking about the water thing if you were close to any water, because I know that's a popular thing. Or it could just be your mom. Who knows?
Yeah,
That's why I like to
probably
go from every angle.
yeah. I think it could have been another facet of my mother, and she probably just wanted me to just get off my ass.
What if she was
Mm.
thinking about calling you and you just picked up, you just read her mind a little bit, got a little of that wavelength thing. And even though she didn't see it or say it out loud, you heard it.
Yeah, maybe she did. Maybe when she was watching television, she said, "I could use a drink. Let me get the kid to get me one," or something of that nature. Who knows? I mean, at the times that I would find her in summoning, she was doing something else. She had something else going on.
Yeah.
It wasn't, I'm not trying to shoot down your theory, but it's just unfortunately she had something else going on that focused her attention. And as far as that, I don't think it was anything that she
Hmm.
needed my assistance with. So that's why if we were to lean back into the ghost theory, it was probably her own ghost haunting us from outer space time, then maybe that could have been that
See,
nature. Maybe I had some unfinished homework that I needed to do, and then she's getting on my ass about it.
I've not looked a lot into it. I know just from personal, I I'm not sure about the whole ghost time travel thing
Mm.
because that just is, once you're your own being in your own body until you die. That's when it severs. And I feel like I just feel like there wouldn't be any interaction there. Otherwise, we'd probably have a lot more people that believe in this stuff having these interactions with themselves. If you could go back in time, they'd be giving each other evidence, right? If you think
Well,
about
you would
Zach
think
Baggins,
so.
if Zach
Yeah.
Baggins dies, you know what? This is a bad example. Ed and Lorraine Warren, they die, right? So then why didn't they go back in time and be like, get the camera, I'm gonna do some fucky shit so that you can catch it on camera? See what I'm saying? Like that's
Yeah,
where I
I
kind of have
get
a
where
hard
you're
time.
coming from. I can see that approach. Yeah.
Another thing I did see on your thing that I was really interested about is this shadow cat. We've covered the light man, but now there was a shadow cat.
All right. This one was told to me by one of my siblings. They were working the late night shift at the warehouse and they were going through past the crossroads. And there was a little ball, like a little shadow cat type ball that was tiptoeing, whatever, tipping across the street. And it was more than halfway across the street. It had two little eyes, but instead of seeing eyes, you saw what was behind it.
So like you
Like
saw
as if it
through
was,
the eyes?
yeah, like as if
Like
the eyes were see through, as if the cat was just a flat plane of darkness. And when he had noticed it, when he had pulled up onto it, close to it, instead of finishing going crossing the street, it went back the road that it came, the way that it came from, which was is more animalistic behavior. So it was behaving like an animal more than anything else, and then disappeared into the darkness.
so the seeing through the eyes thing, that's I'm hanging up on it just because I'm trying to picture almost like is it like cut out the eyes? Like if you were like cutting through a newspaper? Was it like that?
Yeah, something
Okay.
like that.
Because I've never heard of something being through it. Some of the things I've seen have been like a shadow, and their eyes are different. Like they're like sockets, but they're like a void. Like it's like blacker than black type void. But
Mhm.
nothing's been see through. That's
Yeah, transparent.
yeah. So that's throwing me. And have you looked into shapeshifters at all of any kind?
From time to time, there's a lot of okay. When it comes to the skinwalkers and stuff like that, there's a lot of pop cultural pollution
Mm-hmm.
and creatures like the Mothman, the Skinwalker, and the Wendigo have been heavily kung fu action figured into out of what they originally were. I'm sure if you've talked with Shane Jones about the Wendigo at length of what it represents and all that stuff, it's not this mule-headed, skeleton-faced, antlered creature. It's more of a gaunt-looking humanoid thing, and the thing is with the skinwalkers, with the lore and stuff so mix mashed with our preconceptions of it, that I really don't know what it is that we're looking at. The base, what we're talking
Mm-hmm.
about is more of a shifter, more like a shapeshifter, but
Yeah.
more of
I
a
wasn't really
shifting
thinking
agent,
Yeah, I wasn't really
some
thinking
sort of
skinwalker. I was just saying just a shifter in general. Okay, we're going Pokemon. Ditto. Where and there are things that are they're literally just called mimics. And usually these mimics that turn into these people, it almost seems like everything is this person except they can't quite get the face.
yeah, yeah, like a doppelganger or
Yeah.
something of that nature, more of a like a yeah, I guess that would be the best word to use, like a mimic.
Yeah, because that's what I
Yeah,
was like. Maybe if it was mimicking something, it just didn't quite get the face, but it was still
yeah.
acting like what? Because it was like it's. Oh my gosh, what was that super cute video I just saw? It's like a raccoon or something, and they get busted where they're like on the porch or something, and like behind the back door, and they bust this raccoon. The light comes on, and all of a sudden it's like the one is saying just act natural, and the other one like gets up on its feet and like I'm a person, and is like walking around like it's trying to be something it's not just to get just to be like, "No, nothing to see here, move along." And maybe it didn't
Yeah.
mean to get busted. I don't know. I still don't it is interesting that it ran
Yeah.
back the other way. That's
Yeah, that's animalistic behavior. If it was one of us, we would have kept crossing the street because that would have been a shorter distance. But no, it just went back the way that it came, which is that's how a natural cat would have acted.
yeah. But that face, man, it'd be really interesting. I wish I could have seen it. You know what I mean? Like, cause it just sounds
Mhm.
so weird. It
Well, it would
just
have been just like a big old ball of darkness with 2 little holes poked in it.
did it have a discernible tail?
I don't know that it did. If it was like it was small and compact, I guess it could have been elongated like a cat-like body.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. So maybe it wasn't a cat at all. Maybe it was the size of a cat, but maybe it wasn't necessarily an animal. But I don't know. I'm trying to flirt away from alien, but
It would have been too small to have been an alien,
but
but what it
we don't
was,
know how big they are.
the ones that we commonly talk about, they're usually
True.
like about humanoid and of a certain height, but this one was more, I guess it behaved and scampered as if it had all fours, and then
Ah,
its
okay.
just initial behavior, the way that it, I guess he described how it, I guess it, I don't know if he described how it, if it bounced while it walked, like a cat would
Mm,
or something of
hmm.
that nature. It's just its behavior and size. At first, initially, he thought it was a cat.
That is so weird. I wish I could have seen it. But speaking of aliens, you did mention that there's a UFO sighting that you know about here. I would like to know
Yeah,
more
yeah,
about that.
I had my own UFO sighting one, and this was off the back porch of one of my friends. One of my friends, he's really into the alien culture and stuff of that nature, and he had built himself a sky deck in the back in his the back of his house, so we would go out there sometimes and just do sky watches, and during one of the sky watches, I look up and I'm looking through these Russian night vision goggles, the ones that you're supposed to,
Hmm.
see everything in. And I look up and I see these, what looks like a square pattern of 3 lights blinking in a sort of a triangular pattern, but they're not, it's like one turns off, then the one next to it turns on and such that
Yeah.
like we see with LED lights, except it's really slow and they're shifting in a triangular type pattern, and I'm just staring at it, and it's, I'm certain it's probably a TR3B or something of that nature, but all I could see was the lights. Everything else was drowned out by the darkness of the night sky. Even with the low light goggles, I couldn't see anything because they emit a beam of ultraviolet light that it picks up. So it was out of the range of the ultraviolet light.
Hmm.
So it was way, way up, like really high in the sky. And the light was all that I could see. And it was fantastic. All I could do is just sit there and just stare at it and awe. It was something else.
I got a couple questions that I wrote down here while you were going through that. Do you know about what year this happened that you saw it?
It would have been in like in the past few years, the past maybe 4 or 5 years.
Okay. And I know that you said he built this thing. Is there any wooded area or was it all open back there where you were sitting and looking or any type of tree line or anything?
Yeah, there was like a lot of, it's in the what we call the hill country. So it's
Okay.
like very hilly,
Hmm.
tons of woods everywhere. So it's very congested with forest.
Yeah, to me, it's interesting too. If there were these tall trees and the tree line and everything, for it to be floating around and basically making itself very obviously seeable, and it had this cover. I wonder why it didn't utilize the cover that it had. You know what I mean?
I think it was like as high up as it was already camouflaged by the night sky.
True.
The only way that it made its presence known was by turning on the lights, and apparently,
Hmm.
as far as I know, I was the only one that saw it. I don't know if anyone else had seen it or if there's anyone else that came up with any kind of a pattern of that nature. So I can't say anything about that, but I didn't report it or anything, which I probably should have. But it's one of those, like, when you see a thing like that, it's like you keep it to yourself because it feels
Hmm.
special type of thing.
In this area, do you happen to know by chance?
I can imagine so. I can imagine so because we get like, the thing is that you're going to get more sightings where there's more people. So that's a deciding factor is how many people are there, and that's gonna determine all the sightings that you're gonna have. And with this one, it's more of like it's a bit more sparsely populated, so that probably won't be as much. It's mostly like retirees and old people. So
Okay. All right. Awesome. So there is something that was on your PDF, but I don't want one. I know it'll go well over our hour. I'm okay, go a little bit over, but I wanted to save it because I actually want to do an entire episode on sleep paralysis.
mhm,
And you have one of the most unique experiences in regards to that I have ever heard. So I don't want to
mhm.
get into it here, but if you're down for it, I'd like to have you out again. I got to get some research done and do all of that and make sure that I have all my ducks in a row. And we could do more of one of my typical structured episodes where I'm able to dig into the facts and the data and then talk about yours because I don't want to miss out on that. I just don't want to graze over it now and not have everybody get to hear how just crazy bonkers it is. But
Yeah,
go
I
ahead.
get that, yeah.
I have a couple questions that I like to ask people. So, what is your favorite cryptid and why?
I think mine is the phantom dogs, the black phantom dogs.
Like
Those ones are my
hellhounds
favorite.
or
Yeah, those
okay.
type of things.
I
They
want to
got,
get into
like, a
them
lot of
so bad.
stories. Yeah, there's some where they, like, help people and some where they're just big and scary and stuff like that nature. Those are always fun stories.
They
I
say, yeah,
remember
I definitely like those.
yeah. I think I remember one story where, like, it was in ye olden times when some guy
Mhm.
was riding a horse, and then he saw, like, one pacing next to him, and then when he got to whatever the local bar or tavern, a couple of men came up to him and said, "Hey, we were planning on robbing you, but we
We
saw
saw your
you had
dog.
this big black dog with you, and it terrified us." And he's like, "I was terrified of the dog too. I didn't even know it was there." And
Fire.
that was always a funny story, you know?
I want to dig into that particular topic more because there's so many different viewpoints and things that come up. And I just really want to get into that. Now,
Mhm.
what is your favorite conspiracy theory?
There's so many of them that I love. I one of my top favorites is the Eisenhower,
Mhm.
treaty,
Yep.
and a lot of people like to attach a lot of stuff to it and stuff that's I don't know what happened, but there was, like, documented the so-called time of window where the president was supposedly unaccounted for,
Yeah.
and it was, like, during, like, tooth removal or something of that nature.
Yeah. There's definitely some stuff out there that's very intriguing. I've been looking into some and I like to sprinkle them in. I don't know. Maybe one of these days I'll do a whole conspiracy. I just feel like they're done so much that I don't know if there's no new evidence. I really don't see hashing it out because everybody's done it. But one of these days I might.
Yeah,
Fingers crossed. Now,
there's a couple of others that I do like the moon landing one,
yeah.
the debates about the Earth, what shape it is and stuff like this. I
Okay.
like those ones. Those are fun.
I've got to read this
Hollow
to you
or cute, fun
because
stuff.
you're going to get a kick out of this. This is my son's assignment for science class. Okay. And I about died laughing because he was utterly confused and did not know what to do with it. It says 7 slides for a PowerPoint show. Slide 1 is the title, 7 is the other stuff. Convince me that the earth is flat. Look up quote unquote experts on the subject. Their thoughts and opinions are pseudoscience. This is going to piss some people off. Then you got to have a definition of pseudoscience. But basically, my son was told to research flat earth theory and convince his teacher that the earth is flat, although he knows it's not.
Yeah.
He's in 7th grade.
That's cute. Yeah, that's cute. It's already starting with the
Yeah.
assumption.
I was like, wait a
So,
minute. I was like, this is seriously your assignment? He's like, yeah, mom. He's like, I'm not kidding. It's flat earth. And I was like, no way. And he brought me the laptop and I took a picture of it. I was like, I don't believe this crap. But it's just
in
something I thought was funny.
yeah, and I think it's the that just gives ammunition to the naysayers, the pro flat earth folks that like that want to point and say, "See, they're indoctrinating our youth" and stuff of that nature. But I don't
Hmm.
know. If you listen, I think it was my appearance on Kevin's show or yeah, I think it was my first appearance on Kevin's show. We had discussed flat Earth and all the Earth models, and I had actually threw him for a loop because I had set him up, and I said, "Oh yeah, I follow this Earth model, but the third Earth model, have you heard of that?" And he's like, "What are you talking about? What third Earth model? There's just hollow and flat, and then the globe, right?" And I'm like, "No, there's another one. It's called the galactic furry model." And he's like, "What?" And I'm like, the entire universe fits inside a giant fox butt, because the foxes are the most promiscuous of the furries. Of course, they would have room up their ass to fit the universe. Then, of course, we laughed and we
That's
laughed our
funny.
asses off.
And I think you just answered one of my questions. Before we ever talked, I have on here, I'm like, what's up with the foxes? Because they're all over your social media.
Oh, I just love the Arctic foxes. I think they're cute.
When I was younger, my absolute favorite was an Arctic fox. I don't know
Mhm,
why. They're beautiful creatures, just gorgeous. But they're also a little fierce because they survive in the Arctic, right? So you've got to
mhm.
be rough. So I always thought that was interesting. And that's funny that you brought that up because those are one of my favorites of all time. I was going to say, speaking of your graphics on your stuff, I saw there was a lot of graphics and drawings and stuff. Are those all done by you?
The illustrations are mostly done by me. If it's not by me, I'll often credit it or tag it as AI.
Okay,
That's
because I
it.
wanted to make sure I told everybody it's phenomenal. I saw your stuff. I was like, this is
Mhm,
fantastic.
yeah. There's a lot of, like, illustrative stuff that I do. Recently, I had done work for an upcoming compendium from R. Keith Andrews, who had published several books about aliens. He's one of these experiencers, sort of an ambassador, a galactic ambassador type,
Hmm.
and he was looking for someone to illustrate his book, and he had gone through SOR, which is Spaced Out Radio, the Canadian Coast to Coast. I'm sure you've heard of them or
Oh, yeah.
maybe have been a guest on their show yourself.
Nope.
The
One of these days, spoken into the universe.
Yeah, if I could get on there, you can definitely get on there. Just the thing is that he was looking for an artist, and I had signed up for it, and I had done the artwork for him, and I had a blast doing it because 'cause I've always wanted to draw, like, a monster manual or an
Hmm.
alien races of the world stuff because from what I've seen what's out there, I'm not satisfied with it. Either the art is janky or the art is an afterthought where it's just either they just rate a DeviantArt profile and just
Hmm.
clip or they'll clip, like, production art from movies and stuff like that and call it that. What he had wanted to do was to have a universal style with all the artwork, and that's where I came in, and I really liked being a part of that, so that was a real blast.
It sounds like a really cool project. And I was looking at your stuff and I was like, you know what? I was like, I got to ask, could you make me a character?
Like,
Because I see people, so people go on and they do these AI things, right? Where they just do stuff and they just generate something. But I like things more when it has the artist touch to it. I don't want to just a computer to just generate me as a cartoon or a anime character or something. Like I want someone that actually it puts the time in and makes it a little bit more unique so it doesn't look so much like everybody else.
yeah, I see what you're saying, I could do
Yeah.
that. I've done, like, 2 or 3 fan arts of Azures where I drew her as a cartoon, and I did one where I actually did make her like a fursona twice. And
Yeah.
yep, she's a fox because that's the promiscuous ones. And as she is also guilty of such. That's just a thing among fiery redheads.
It's gotta be. I hear that actually a lot, which is really surprising to me, and I don't know if there really is some kind of genetic predisposition, but it is
Mhm.
fascinating. I can't go away without asking some questions.
Yeah, go
Now
ahead.
that you unveiled yourself, so what exactly constitutes a furry? What makes a furry?
The furries they're usually like they're interested in they're like fans of anthropomorphic characters, stuff like funny cartoon animals like Bugs Bunny and stuff like that.
Mhm.
We all enjoyed it as kids, they enjoy it as adults. And there's a lot of thing where people make their own original characters. Now, the thing is with furries is that they create their own original characters that aren't always like tied to licensed material.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, they'll gain inspiration from most popularly Disney films. There's Disney is responsible for several what we call in the community furry booms. There was one that happened in the 70s with the movie Robin Hood,
Oh,
the
yeah, that's a good
where he's a
point.
fox. Yeah.
I
And
would have
then we
never put
had
that together.
and the most recent furry boom was with the movie Zootopia, which caused another furry boom. And
So
that sort of like exploded it. And it's now there's another like subsect of like a few years ago, bronies were a big thing. And the argument was, are bronies furries? Yes and no, in that they develop, oftentimes, if they choose to, they'll develop their own unique characters, but because they're tied to a license, they don't consider themselves furries. It's the same archetype, but it's tied to specifically the Hasbro license.
okay.
It's like not, if it was like original, then they would be considered furries, but because it's not, they like to subsect themselves as something else.
It's
I know
kind of
it's
like a school
confusing.
mascot. But you either are in the suit or you're not.
Yeah, something of that nature.
So I have so many questions and I know I am totally ignorant. Do furries dress like furries all the time? Or is it more of like a cosplay convention type thing? Or I guess behind closed doors? I don't know how this works.
It's like, I don't know if you're referencing to the notorious NCI episode. Have you heard of that? Okay, about furries?
No, I
Okay,
don't think
you're
so.
you're gonna probably have to look it up, but
Okay.
anyways, the furries were there's because furries are adults who enjoy cartoon animals, adults still do adult things, and
True.
because of that, there's a lot of misconjecture that furry is a fetish because it's often presented
That
sexualized.
yeah. So that's a lot of times what I've heard. That's why I was curious because I'm like, do you go to the grocery store dressed as a furry, or
Uh,
is it more like
the costumes cost anywhere from 1,000 to $20,000 to produce of material. So, are
okay?
you with the joke is I paid $7,000 for this costume, I'm not gonna fuck in it. And then the response is, "I paid $7,000 for this costume, of course I'm gonna fuck in it." That's the joke. But the thing is, when you wear it, you're pretty much wearing your couch. And,
So
and it's very hot and muggy and it's a process. So if you see anyone dressed up as furry, it's specifically for a photo shoot. So think of it like cosplay. It's like you're dressed up as this character, you have all this gunk
mhm,
makeup and stuff on you. Same thing with the furries, except you have the suit in you. You're going to have like an undersuit. You're going to be wearing an ice pack to cool yourself. You're going to be having fans going on in the
mhm.
heads if they're large enough to have electronic fans in them. It's going to be like a lot of stuff going on. It takes a lot of work into it. And a lot of people put a lot of pride into it. And there's this sort of culture called don't break the magic, where you can only take your fur head off behind closed doors
Like
because
Disneyland.
there's this, yeah. And that sort of rule, this current generation has abandoned it, but the older generation, and yes, when you, there are such thing as senior citizen furries, they're called gray muzzles.
Oh, that's cool.
And
It's ironic it's not
they,
silver fox, right?
yeah, yeah. So they, yeah, they latch on to the old school, which is don't break the magic, don't squeak the mundanes, which is
Yeah.
don't freak out normal people.
So
And
I
and
guess my thing is so I'm from a tiny town. We are very much isolated. It's not really anything around here that is even seen. So when I was under the impression of what a furry was, it didn't involve a full ass suit. It was like the ears like your headphones and like a belt with a tail and collars and all the stuff that I would enjoy behind closed doors. So I think that's where my disconnect is because what you're explaining is I would never in a million years have called that furry just because to me I see mascot. So I went to
yeah,
CryptidCon last year and there was a growlithe and she was full ass suit. She had the fan in the hat. It was hot, I'm sure. Uh, and I just never put two and two together. To me, she was just a girl in a costume. I didn't associate it with
Mm.
furryism because to me, I just I figured it was like putting the accessories on, not a full ass suit. So does it go both ways? So say I wanted to experiment or try it out, and say I went to a Halloween costume store, and actually I have a whole bag of these in my closet. So let's just use this as an example. I've got one that you put the tail through a belt and you put the tail on, and then it's got like ears that you clip in, but it's not a full suit. Is that still
Mhm.
classified as
Yeah, it is pretty much. I mean, there's a process where if you wear like the paws and the head and stuff, but you don't wear anything else, that's called poodling, where you're like a
uh,
poodle.
it does make
And
sense. But what if you do everything except wear a hat? Is it still considered part of it?
like the entire stuff,
So
like
like
without a head.
say you have, paws and a tail and all of the stuff, but instead of putting a whole ass head on, you put just ears and then you like paint your face.
That could be somewhat done like that, but with most of people, they often it's either modeled after a specific character with cartoon features, so they'll often try to make a fursuit or something like that that accentuates that.
Ah,
So it's
okay.
like the head is usually like the most treasured part of the persona of the costume. It's pretty
S-
much the character.
So
And when people do that,
if you go to a sorority party during Halloween, those are not furries. Those are just
no, most depends on what sorority you're going to, but I would say mostly no. But
so if you're
as
dressed up
far
like a
as
Playboy bunny, you're not a furry. You're just
yeah, yeah, pretty much.
okay.
That
Okay.
that's
Okay.
but if that's the costume, yeah.
That
But
makes
with
sense then.
the there's like the full suit, which is but then again, like I said, those go up into like the price of now probably $20,000. You're paying like for that. And it's usually based on a specific character and people do specific characters. Like they'll often like sometimes characters will get retired and which means they take the first suit and they put it up in behind glass and stuff like that and it becomes like a trophy.
Kinda like a
And
superhero cave, and you
it
have, like,
sounds
all
silly, but
their old suits, like
that's
there was a Batman that you watched, and when you go in, they've got the glass cases, and you have all the different costumes that
yeah.
Batman wore throughout the years.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
imagine that, but with a fursuit, and with some it's like for some people, they, like, often make themselves a character, it's called a fursona, and because of the level
Oh.
of autism in the furry community, some people they don't feel comfortable talking to each other unless you've developed a fursona. So when you see that little Arctic fox that I have bouncing around as my mascot, I use that as my fursona when I have to engage with other furries because otherwise they'll get social anxiety and be unable to relate or talk to me.
Hmm,
Some people are like that.
this is so cool. Sorry, I had a bunch of questions. I don't know how this works.
No, it's okay.
Like, I gotta ask.
I'm surprised you managed to keep it outside of
Classy.
NC-17. Yeah.
I got you.
Because I got answers for those too. Depends on how deep you want to go. There is a thing referred to as an SPH, which is a strategically placed hole. And you can figure that out. And
That is awesome.
oftentimes, it's quote unquote so that it makes going to the restroom easier. It's
Yeah,
often for other things, for extracurricular
that's
activities.
a good point. Because 'cause I'm over here going, now a guy, I can see that being you just cut a hole in it and you just whip it out and do your business. But girls
Mhm.
don't operate that way. Like the girl I saw at CryptidCon, ain't no way. There's too much there. There's no way this woman could have. Wait, what if do they use those little like I had one once when I was camping. What did they call that? Like some kind of weenie thing. It's like a little funnel, like a plastic funnel or a rubber funnel, and it makes you to where you can pee like a dude, so you don't have to squat in the
I know
woods.
what you're talking about. I don't know what they're called. I don't think
Yeah.
they often use those. Like they'll if a woman has to go to the restroom, she'll just completely take the fursuit off and
Oh,
then
that would
just
be a
go.
pain.
But taking off the suit for most of them takes some assistance. So often furries will either appoint a handler and The thing is when you have the fursuit on, your vision is the first thing that goes because you can only depending on the structure of the suit, you can only see so many ways, either through the mouth or
Hmm.
if you use, buckram for the eyes, you can barely see through the eyes because it's that mesh pattern that you're looking
Yeah.
for.
Yeah. The lady I was telling you about, when I saw her, I didn't even think anything of it, but she did have someone with her that was
Mhm.
like guiding her, like a blind
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
because she would turn, like she would try to see, but you could tell that she was having difficulties. Obviously, it's just like thick mesh. And I just didn't put two and two together. This woman did a great job. Like I said, I noticed there was a girl with her, but I didn't put two and two together. So kudos to whoever the lady was that was dressed up like Growlithe at CryptidCon 2023. Because you bomb. I got my picture taken with her because I was like, I can't not do this because it
Oh,
was
yeah.
phenomenal.
And it's
Yeah.
like this although 80% of furries are gay, that is
Hmm,
statistically true. 80% of furries are male and they're gay. That's fact.
interesting. I
Um,
would have never guessed that.
yeah, so there
Hmm.
is this sort of, I guess, expectation that you come out as a furry to your family.
Because that's
But
more
the thing
acceptable
is,
than being gay. Is that the working
no,
theory?
no,
Oh,
it's they being coming out being gay isn't a problem anymore. The taboo isn't as strong as it once was generations ago. However, with furries, there's still this thing where some people feel, the younger people feel that there is a taboo to it. When it's just all you're saying is, I really like cartoons and I spend a
yeah.
ton of money on
I
them.
like to play dress up.
That's all that you're saying.
It's like me.
It's
I love
there's no,
Halloween. I
yeah,
love
yeah.
dressing up for Halloween. I love being all these
Mhm,
characters. And one of the things that I used to do is, so over at Studio Sinister on their YouTube channel, every Monday for a while or every other Monday, we would get on and we would be assigned like a theme. So it'd be like 80s night or Jerry Springer was the 90s one or stuff like that. And I love putting on, doing my hair, putting on the other makeup. We gave ourselves nicknames. So we had our
mhm.
own persona. We were for about an hour and a half. And I love it because it's very freeing to be able to be yourself, but not be judged for it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And if you could put on a costume to make that happen, then by all means,
Well,
I don't see a problem with it at all.
it's a protected facet on which to express yourself. It's a way of committing self-expression without worrying about shame or embarrassment because this is an external character
Yeah.
as opposed to just your own vulnerabilities upon it. It's performance. And I
Hmm.
get that and I guess like I was with my earlier point, the young kids feel that this is something that they get points for coming out
The
as, and it's like,
yes. The
it's not really a thing. You're just saying to your parents, "Hey, I'm addicted to this huge money sink."
yeah. It's just to me, it's the same thing as people that dress up as superheroes and go to Comic Con. To me, that's virtually what it sounds like to me. And I think what's unfortunate is there's people that are taking this community that you're a part of and they're basically pissing on it, right? These younger generations, they don't care. It's almost like they are going for the absolute worst shock factor that they come up with. So if they can
Mhm.
dress up like an animal and go piss on the courthouse steps, they're going to do it. And
It
that gives a stigma to all of the community, even though a lot of them aren't like that.
yeah, it's a lot of, "How can I get the most attention the
Hmm.
fastest?" type of thing.
Just educate yourself, people. All right. Just don't yuck their yum unless it's illegal. All right.
Mm,
As long as you're not doing anything illegal, you do you, I'll do me. Just make sure you're educated. Just know that not everybody's like that. Just like every redhead doesn't. Okay. I'm a bad example of that because I fit all the
mm,
boxes. And if you're interested in it, I'm sure that there are, you could probably attest to this. I'm sure there's communities out there that if you are curious about it, you don't know, maybe you're new to it or you're thinking about it. I'm sure there's
mm,
communities in there that will teach you the right and respectable way for the community so that you don't make the community stigmatized.
mm.
Kind of like my bipolar community. We get stigmatized all the time, but we're not all like that. And there's support groups out there and there's communities that you can communicate with to just get educated a little bit more. But other than that, have some fun, guys. Shit. Like now I need a persona. First, well, it was a fursona, right?
Yeah, fursona, yeah.
I so want to put on one of these costumes. I want to do it because I want to experience it. I want to know. I'm always curious to know. And it's like I said, as long as it's not illegal, I think it'd be cool because
I can I let me tell you about the time I first put on a mascot costume at
oh
an
yeah.
anime convention. I had bought this full costume, and it was like a parody of a meme of whatever was popular at the time. It was like some kind of bear. And then I put it on, and then I walked out on the floor, and everybody immediately recognized the meme. And everyone just floods you with attention. And what I can attribute it to, it's like wearing God. You
Mhm.
suddenly have this heightened adornment upon you, and everyone just loves it and wants to get their picture with you, wants to be
Yep.
seen with you and all this stuff. Everybody just they recognize a specific character, they're focusing all and from the inside, you just see yourself flooded with this attention, and it feels good, and it feels like addictive, and it was a huge rush for me. You know, at first I was nervous. I was shaking in the elevator as I was going down to the
Mhm.
floor, and then elevator opened, one of the anime voice actors like, "Oh, hey, so and then I'm like it's like, "Oh, that's nice." He
Yeah.
recognized the meme, and then I
A
get to the floor, and then I walk on there, everyone's like, "Oh."
and
It
two,
it
I
just
feel
funny to me.
like, especially the ones that don't do the specific ones are still great, but the people
Mhm.
that put the extra time and the effort into creating their own persona and their own character, did I say that right?
Yeah, yeah, and we do have characters that are designed specifically to get attention.
Mhm.
They're neon colored. Now with LED lights, they glow, and they're neon colored, they glow, they have spots and sparkles and stripes, and they go out there, and we call them sparkle dogs because the entire thing is just to get as much attention, to show as many bright, fluffy characters as they can, and it's pretty funny. It's actually hilarious.
So it's something that they're going to remember. So it's not just for you, it's also for other people that are there. And I just think that's like super cool.
Yeah, it's a spectacle that you get to be a part of. It's fun.
Are there any resources specific to this that we could maybe add to the description in case anybody was interested in looking into it or anything?
I think there's a website out there called Furry Science where
Okay.
where I got all the stats and from, and they'll usually like give you the raw numbers for this stuff. You're gonna find your niche communities pretty much
Mhm.
everywhere. Every single message board or whatever is gonna have like a furry section. There's gonna be like stuff if depending on how deep down the rabbit hole you wanna dig, you can find sections of Etsy and stuff like this where
Okay.
you can find these fursuit makers, and so many of them, they're gonna charge like tens of thousands of dollars, and the thing is, even if you had that money, they have a waiting list that's years
Yeah.
long, and it's because so much time and effort goes into this. For some people, it's just easier to it's just more faster to just learn how to make their own rather than hire
Yeah.
someone to do it,
So
you know?
another weird question, and I don't know why this is the only thing I could think of on how to compare it to. Are there people out there like a dungeon master who you're making your character, but you're not quite sure what you need or maybe need help? Like you can't quite get started or something just isn't right. Are there people out there that could help you kind of form that character?
That leads me to another funny story. I know that we were gonna mostly talk about paranormal stuff, but we seem to be
Oh, yeah.
this
Sorry.
furry hole is going really deep. Okay, there's this woman, she makes these iconic badges because that's the thing, furries love badges. And she has, like, these badges, it's like says certified Arctic fox, certified this, certified that. My friend, as a joke, bought me one that said undecided because at the time I hadn't decided on a fursona yet. I hadn't ironed one down. I was trying
Hmm.
different types and all this stuff. And he gave me the badge and it's like, here you go, because you're undecided. And it's like, oh, I thought this was harmless and fun. I slap it on and then we're heading around and we're like, man, I could go for a pizza right now. Does anyone want to order a pizza? And we were in the lobby of the hotel. So it's like I like, hey, I'll go to the front desk and ask them if there's like a pizza service that delivers here that we could call. I walk up to the desk and on my way there, these two like neck beard, smelly congory, whatever the stereotypical congories decide right then and there to help me decide my persona. and I'm like cringing the fuck out. The hostess, the woman who's at the lobby, the registration, she's freaking out because it's like these guys, they smelled so bad, like they hadn't bathed the entire thing, and
Ew.
they're trying to have this in-depth conversation with me, and then I finally get what I need from her from the lady, and then I go back to my friend, and I'm like, "You son of a bitch, you set me up," and I'm like, and he's like, "What? I didn't what happened?" And it's like, "I didn't everyone's trying to help me decide my persona, they won't leave me alone." And it's just like,
So got
he
everybody
had
in there.
no idea that that would happen, and I had no idea. It's like we were both thrown for a loop that this would happen, so if you're undecided and furries out there, a lot of furries like to have meetups everywhere. You're gonna find them everywhere in your local park, in your local library, everywhere, just anywhere where there's community, anything, there's gonna be a furry community. And you just have to ask, and there will be more than enough people willing to answer and help you out. Now, because of that, there's also tons of drama, but hey, that's with any community,
Yeah.
and so you just gotta just keep your wits about you and use your best judgment, but
Keep it
the
classy.
answers are out there. Yeah.
But on that note, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. So, Chris,
Yes.
again, thank you so much for being here. I'm sorry I asked you a bunch of questions, but in my defense, if we did go back and listen to my episode with Ashley, I told her if I ever got you on, I was going to ask. So I got to do that for all my listeners. The drill. Again, check out the description. Any links that he's provided me are going to be down there. We don't have any as far as research stuff. We didn't have anything this week. So basically, you'll just get the description and all those links. Check them out, follow, subscribe, do everything you need to do. You got anything you want to add before we check out?
No, I'm good. Just follow me on Conspire Theory. You can find me at either Instagram or Twitter at Conspire Theory, all one word.
All right, awesome. Well, until next time, everybody. See ya.